Welcome back, one and all, to the Alcohol Empire, where today's episode is going to be filled with action and adventure, and a little bit of injury, as per usual. But a few injuries aren't going to take down our rootin', tootin', bootlegging cowboys so easily. So I say to you, pray for the best, have a good time, and let's get this liquor train moving. Oddly enough, today's episode's going to start with Saburo actually making a grand silver sculpture for the center of town for all to enjoy. A bustling city/town should really have some nice art, and I think it would be a nice thank you gift for everyone's hard work. However, a massive, beautiful silver sculpture such as this is going to take quite a while, so we'll check back in with Saburo at a later time. In the meantime, we had a trade caravan come by from our good friend, the Thromboians. Not really friends at the moment, more of neutral acquaintances, but better than them trying to kill us. Naturally, of course, they purchased some of our high-quality Silverhorn Brewing Company vodka, beer, and a little bit of the whiskey. After that, everyone kind of decided it would probably be best if we separated our turkeys and muffalo from our horses. That way we kind of have our pack animals and egg-laying animals away from our riding animals. I mean, sure, technically the muffalo are also riding animals, but so are huskies and things like that. So, really they're designated in our bootlegging empire, though, as hauling animals, as they have a much higher hauling capacity than horses and whatnot. We also tend to sell or gift other factions the inbred muffalo babies that we breed here as well, so they're good for that. Sometime later, it was Oakley's growth moment, so we had to choose some passions for her as well as some traits. We actually gave her a passion for mining and construction, as those were very useful skills, and we also picked kindness as her trait, as Oakley's a very kind child. It's very crazy to me to think that only a few episodes we had baby Oakley, who was just a little child. I always call her baby Oakley in my head, but now she's a 7-year-old child. Time is just passing so fast. After some time passed, though, it was finally time for us to install the grand silver sculpture that Saburo created, so Shortus quickly took it through the pouring rain to the center of town. And might I just say that this sculpture is absolutely beautiful. I couldn't think of a more gorgeous piece of art for the center of our town. Saburo really poured his heart into this one. But I'm not gonna lie, it is a little odd, even though he poured his heart into it. So the depiction is called Sympathy of Blitz. It's actually a piece of art about Blitz, which is very interesting. However, it's about Blitz being knocked unconscious. So a little strange, but everyone likes it. And I also like it. It does seem a tiny bit out of place being right in the middle of kind of a western town. So I'm going to try to incorporate some different things in here. I'm going to plant some roses around it, and I think I'm going to try to put some stone borders in. Eventually, once we are a true city, I would probably be doing some stone streets. So, I kind of think it might fit that. And speaking of roads, something that I've been talking about inside my head to myself is building some nice roads between us and the other settlements. That way we can make trade even more efficient. So we sent Ninjak and Hack out to begin with some dirt roads so we can start this process. Of course, the idea is going to be that we have dirt roads to begin with, eventually making our way up to stone roads and whatnot. We do also have railroads, which I think would be very interesting at some point to have those. I think that they would be extremely efficient compared to what we're currently doing, but it will take a very long time to do that because we have to collect resources, things like that. But unfortunately, while they're out building the road, we have a massive group of man-hunting foxes who are coming to try and kill every single one of our bootleggers and eat them, essentially. However, none of the bootleggers were even remotely interested in becoming fox shit out on the forest, so they decided to load up the cannons, begin firing, fire their pistols or rifles. I think you get the point. They're going to kill the foxes. Now, these foxes weren't all that powerful, but they had the numbers on their side. They outnumbered us by quite a bit, and unfortunately began surrounding us. They even began trying to attack baby Oakley as she was very small. Tree also was downed very quickly by a group of foxes in town, and then the rest began after us. Young Oakley was also quickly downed, but her father stood over her with his sword and began slashing every fox that came near. A little bit later, her grandmother Bacchus also came to her aid. Shortus retreated with Oakley in his arms, firing at the foxes in a view reminiscent of the time that Bacchus escaped the logging empire with Tree. Shortus quickly put her in her bed and called for the best doctor, who was her step-grandfather, Saburo, of course, who came to her aid. She was badly injured. The worst was probably that her right ear was actually bitten off, but thankfully she was alive, even with all the injuries. If there is one thing that we all truly care about here in the Alcohol Empire, it's our family and all the friends that we've made. After the battle was all said and done and everyone was still healing up a bit, I did notice something strange in our brewery. It's a baby husky puppy. Apparently, Mary and White Lightning ended up having 2 puppies while I wasn't paying attention, so we now have some more huskies. And this does bring something up that we have a lot of animals that need names if you guys wanted to provide some of those in the comments. It is also worth mentioning that this episode is being recorded and the previous episode just went up today, so if you're leaving comments already about wonderful ideas and names and whatnot, I haven't seen them just yet, but continue to do so for sure, and I will definitely get around to it. Sometime later though, late one evening, Ninjak and Hack had finally finished the dirt road they were building to the local settlements, and they were on their way back home. However, there was a bit of a complication. On the way back home, the caravan was actually ambushed by Constable Morris and some of his elite officers. Upon further inspection, it looked less like an ambush and more like they had the road blocked waiting on Ninjak and Hack to come through, but luckily they must have spotted the officers in time and stopped. As the rain was pouring down on them, Hack and Ninjak were kind of compiling a plan. The idea would be that Hack would provide cover fire as Ninjak trotted in on his horse and threw dynamite at them, hoping to kill enough of them that they might run. And this plan did start off fairly well, as Ninjak chucked a piece of dynamite in between all the officers and managed to injure some and even kill one. But after that, as he was coming back in for another bombing round, essentially, with his dynamite, he unfortunately was shot down off his horse. And unfortunately, this left Hack out there by himself, firing at the officers in the rain in a bit of a shootout with them. And thankfully, they weren't all that accurate in their shots because of the rain, otherwise he definitely would have died. Obviously, though, he couldn't call for reinforcements because by the time they arrived, the officers would have killed Ninjak or kidnapped him, so he ended up having to devise a plan to run in, grab Ninjak, and try to flee the area as fast as possible. Thankfully, his horse was extremely quick, and he did manage to do this. But this ambush was no coincidence. No. This was planned. This was all part of Constable Morris's grand scheme. The fact of the matter is, we've had 2 encounters with Constable Morris, and we have managed to kill some of his elite officers. However, we have never landed a scratch on that man. He is extremely agile and extremely powerful. And a man like Morris, it could be said, does not give up easily. He doesn't plan on stopping until he takes down our bootleggers. Obviously, we cannot allow this to happen, but currently the odds are not in our favor. But Hack took Ninjak to the workers' barracks to rest and try to heal up, and he went directly to Tree after this to explain what had happened so the 2 of them could discuss what they should do. While these talks between Hack and Tree were ongoing, we had Blitz go through some of the homes and get rid of some of the old lanterns and begin putting in some electric lighting. Now, this prototype technology would help us cut back on our wood consumption, which was desperately needed here as we're building a much larger city. And I feel that the shift would definitely be needed in our wood consumption. Instead of using it for lighting, we'd be using it more for cooling and heating throughout the months of summer and winter, obviously with our passive coolers and our furnaces. We decided to send out a trade caravan to some local settlements to look for some prosthetic body parts, some wooden legs and arms and things like that, because many of our bootleggers are missing limbs, such as Hack. I'm afraid to send him back out in case they were to be ambushed again. He only has 1 arm and 1 leg. This could be very dangerous. While the caravan was gone, though, Reek had his aging up moment, so he was now able to actually walk around, and he was no longer baby Reek. All of our little children they're all growing up, and it's very crazy. So, to celebrate, Bacchus actually made her grandson a beautiful parka for him to wear. Very kind of her. It's always wonderful seeing the family come together, like your grandmother making you a parka, or your father fending off a group of man-hunting foxes from eating you out in the battlefield. It's beautiful. It took a little while, and after a few days, though, our caravan had finally returned home, and after looking for a very long time and checking with several settlements, we finally found an artificial leg. It was only one leg, which wasn't great, but it was better than nothing, and also while they were gone, Bacchus did manage to make an artificial arm, so this would be perfect. We could give these two things to Hack, so he's kind of a whole person once again, and we'll try to work on everyone else at a later date. We can always make these artificial body parts. It's part of the medieval prosthetics mod, but they just take an extremely long time to make. It's so much easier to purchase them. The artificial tier body parts are pretty good. I forget what the percentage is of usefulness on them essentially, but so a normal body part is like 100%. The mechanical, I think, is the best we can do, which is actually 95%, so it's almost identical to having the normal body parts. Now, after Hack and Tree's conversation about the ambush and the true threat that Constable Morris and the other marshals essentially are posing to the colony, Tree did commission that we mine out a section of this hill and set up defenses inside it. So essentially what we're going to be doing to try and combat this is make sure that we are extremely well defended. Now, when we're out on the roads, it's going to be hard to do. Maybe send some extra men on caravans, but here back at home, we can work on our defenses. And speaking of caravans, some visitors actually let us know about a incapacitated refugee that they seen on the road on the way here, whose name was Chet. Now, Chet was very injured and unable to move. Chet would most likely starve to death or die of dehydration or wild animals if we didn't get to them in time, so we decided that we would send a caravan out to assist them. We decided that we would add an additional person to this caravan. We couldn't spare too much manpower as we still had to defend the home and also work on our defenses back home. So we sent out Lucky, Hack, and Ninjak, now that Hack, of course, has his artificial body parts. Now, of course, it wasn't lost on us that this itself could be an ambush. The Marshal Service could have pressured or paid those visitors to tell us about the refugee that was nearby. There might not even be a refugee. Of course, after arriving, we did see Chet lying there injured, and we decided to trot on towards him to try and save him. Even with the very real possibility that we could be ambushed here, this could all be a ruse, and we could all die or be gravely injured, we had to take a chance because no one left behind. You know, we're all about community and morals. We just couldn't allow it. We, of course, offered Chet our help, and of course he accepted. Not a moment too soon, he also explained that the RimWorld Marshals were the ones who done this to him. And then we realized that this wasn't really an ambush, but it was a bit of a trap. They had left him here so that we would come out and try to save him. The RimWorld Marshal Service had used our one largest weakness against us. Our emotions, our morals, the fact that we're all about community and trying to save people and trying to be good people, essentially. They are using that to their advantage, knowing that we would try to come and save someone who was going to die. Thank God, though, we did manage to escape with our lives and very minor injuries. I think the only person that was slightly injured was Hack, and this was only maybe a flesh wound from a bullet. Luckily, the thick swamp really saved us here because it was very hard for them to shoot through it. If they had been closer, though, we would have never escaped. I have a feeling, of course, this is not the last that we've seen of Constable Morris. In the meantime, though, as the caravan was returning home with Chet, we did have another trader from the Thromboian tribe who was willing, of course, to buy some of our high-quality alcohol in exchange for plenty of silver. Now, I'm going to be honest, we're constantly selling alcohol to traders and to local settlements, and I really don't know what to do with all the silver that we're kind of piling up, because they don't always have artificial limbs to buy. We have plenty of weapons. They have the same tech weapons that we do, if not worse. Really, the only thing worth buying is dynamite for people, or Molotovs, or things like that. So I'm not really sure what to spend the silver on. Something I thought about doing, kind of brainstorming, maybe purchase slaves, bring them home, and then recruit them, or even just buy them and kind of to show that we're good people, we would, emancipate them. So I thought about maybe trying to do that in the future. But let me know what you guys think about that in the comments for sure, as to what we should spend our wealth on. Now, sometime later, Shortus actually had a bit of an inspired taming, so there was a local Arctic wolf nearby, and I sent him to try and tame it, and first try, he actually managed to get it, so I thought that was really cool. And like I mentioned earlier, if you guys have any names for all the animals, we have horses, huskies, and now a wolf, be sure to leave those in the comment section. Oh, and our turkeys, we need those named as well. To kind of honor our Arctic wolf, we ended up making him some steel armor for his head, and I also made some body armor for him, but I think one of the huskies actually picked it up, which kind of gave me the idea as well that we should probably begin armoring all of our animals, our horses, our wolf, of course, the dogs, everything that we're going to be taking into battle, essentially, or that could be harmed because of battle. I actually just realized as well, looking back at that clip, the dog is a woman. I'm sorry, it's a female. I always get the genders confused. I just assume the wolf is going to be a male because I'm, I guess, a misogynistic piece of shit. But it's a female. I apologize. We also ended up building a few houses. We began working on that, and I also began planning out some other homes and kind of how we want the city to go, kind of the shape we want it to take and things like that. I think I kind of want the city to kind of begin being smushed between the mountains, getting closer towards the graveyard that we're building where Reek is actually buried. The only problem is with that, because of the wind turbine, and I don't know if I could reinstall that. Of course, we could build a new one, but I think it might get in the way, so we might end the city kind of abruptly right before it gets to the wind turbine, because I want to try to add maybe another one or two in there if we start increasing our electronic usage with light bulbs and stuff like that as well. And I also wanted to take a moment kind of discuss with the Mining Empire series that's coming up. Obviously, that's going to be the story of Happy Oak. Where is Happy Oak after the Logging Empire fell and after he saved Tree and Bacchus, right? So that series essentially is going to take place. It's kind of a prequel to this one because it's going to be taking place before this one, of course, a few years after the Logging Empire has fallen. And of course, it's going to directly tie in with this series because the entire point of this is to create, like a shared universe and that sort of thing. So that's going to be his story before we see him again, possibly in this series or another where maybe they're reunited. I think everyone would like that, right? I don't want to spoil anything or anything that I might have going on in my head about maybe if they're reunited or something. I could say that. Maybe they'll die right here in this colony and never meet each other. It's who knows. But I think everyone would be very happy, obviously, if Happy Oak was somehow brought into this universe, or not this universe, but into this colony. They are taking place on the same planet, same universe, stuff like that. Everyone left some wonderful comments and names about what we should call this shared universe. I'm going to call it the Rat Knight RimWorld universe, so RKRU. I really like that. That was wonderful. I forget who that was left by, but I'm going to post a screenshot here. That way you guys can see. So I'm so sorry I didn't pay attention, but thank you so much. Yeah, I really love that name. I'd like to do a timeline video as well at some point after we make a few more episodes of these series and things like that. That way, obviously, we can do a timeline of the events that are currently going on. So I'd like to try to do that in the future as well. But guys, I want to thank you ever so much for watching this episode. I very much appreciate it, and I very much love you guys, and just thank you so much for your support. Thank you for loving the content. I know it's a stupid thing to thank you for, but I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me because I put a lot of effort into these videos, even though it probably doesn't seem like it, because it seems, dog shit and it's slapped together. But to me, for me, it's a lot of effort, and it takes quite a bit of time, so I'm glad everyone seems to really enjoy it. I hope to continue posting or uploading as frequently once we start the Mining Empire series. I'm still not sure as to when I should start that, because of conflicting uploads. I don't want to, start taking away from this series to give to that series, but maybe we could try to run them consistently together. I'm not sure, but we'll try to figure something out. But once again, thank you guys ever so much for watching. I love you guys. I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.